Hello and welcome to Devil's Advocate Productions on this space. We're not going to waste any time, folks. Today, we have a very special guest, Miss Lindsey Boylan, who, thank you very much for joining me.
Thanks for
and
having me.
being one of the first big guests on this space. We are a leftist YouTube collective of various different creators talking about various different topics, but we all agree fascism bad at the very least. So I have a list of questions, but let's just begin with anyone who may not know who you are. Give them a little spiel on who you are and what you do.
Sure. Well, it's great to be here. Thank you so much for having me, Alex. This is great. And I'm honored. I am Lindsey Boylan. I've worked in and out of government most of my career. Most recently in government, I worked for the state. I was the Secretary for Economic Development and Housing. And half of that job was great because it was focused on job creation and housing. And then the other half of that job was terrible because it was working for Andrew Cuomo.
Right.
And ultimately, years after working for him, I came forward and spoke about what a lot of that work was really like, which was, unfortunately, a big part of that was being sexually harassed. I was the first woman to speak up. And I think I always knew I wanted to find ways to help make change. I don't know that I would have thought I would come forward in the way and the time that I did, but other women had reached out to me privately, at least one other woman at the time. And so I felt like I needed to, and it's kind of changed a lot of the trajectory of my approach to politics. I mean, this is my career. I love government and I believe in it, but certainly working for someone like that and fighting against him afterwards and the kind of larger establishment has certainly made me think really differently about how our system runs, how the Democratic Party runs. And so a lot of people may have known me over the last few years, really pushing back against a lot of the establishment that I think is a big part of the reason why we have the fascist world we have today. It didn't just happen with one party. And I've become, really deeply engaged in the mayor's race, making sure that Andrew Cuomo isn't mayor and making sure that Zohran Mamdani is mayor. And he's a great candidate. So it's been a pleasure to kind of get behind that. And so I spend all my time fighting for things that I care about. And a lot of that has ended up being around, trying to fight back against people who are harming the most vulnerable. And so I've really liked the work. And I don't know if I would have expected to be here, but I think it's probably what my parents would have wanted for me as lifelong Democrats, because they thought that being a Democrat was actually helping people and helping the most vulnerable people. And so I'm excited to be here. And I don't think there's a more important time to be fighting against all the entrenched power because it isn't just one party that enabled it.
Yeah. Yes, very much so. I had initial. I'm going to jump around here.
Yeah, no problem.
You, as Secretary of Economic Development, you talked about just now how it was very focused on housing and job creation, both of which are huge issues still, always have been, and are just getting worse under Trump.
Yes.
So how can provided we got fingers crossed and we're knocking wood about Zohran. I'm excited to vote for him again in November, and we're definitely going to do a live stream here like we did during the primary. But I as a common folk, how does a mayor create job opportunities so that companies are more willing to put out notices on places like Indeed and ZipRecruiter? How and so that's jobs, and then housing. How do we fight against giant corporations like Blackstone and related?
Yeah, well, I'll take the housing one first because I think it's probably the biggest issue for most New Yorkers. I think across the city, if you various polls have said the number one issue people care about is housing, and I think that's because it's what's taking most of people's income when they are working. It's really hard to find housing in the city. It's impossible for a lot of people to stay here if you have kids. And so I'd say that's number one issue. And I think Zohran really spoke to people because he talked about first a rent freeze, which doesn't help everyone, right? It doesn't change the nature of the housing crisis we have, because we need to build a lot more housing. But the rent freeze did speak to people's urgent concerns. You know what? There were many terrible things about the COVID pandemic, and that we still feel today. But one of the worst was we made all these extraordinary protections to keep people in their homes and to keep people out of poverty and families, and then we just took them away. And then it plunged. We got a record number of, especially kids, out of poverty in this country with those protections, and then we got a record number of kids and families in poverty when we took those away.
It was one of the clearest examples of how government can help,
Yes,
and how taking it away will hurt.
yeah. And I think, so it's a very difficult time, and I think you can't just do a rent freeze alone, because that only affects a certain number of people. It also doesn't respond to the lack of affordable housing, period, and deeply affordable. So we need to build a lot more.
We see so many buildings, me and my wife, just around the city, of new luxury housing that looks empty.
Yes,
because they are building, but they're building for rich people's children from other states.
Yeah, and I think it's, that is kind of the model that has been used over the last few decades. We do like 421A, which there are all these incentive programs that ask developers to build market rate with a piece of affordable, but that just replicates the uneven distribution of housing. And one of the ways that people talk about housing development, is that if you do enough of it, it trickles down to the most affordable. But that's just not what we've seen. That's been counter to reality. We need to be in the business of some versions of social housing. Whether we're talking about NYCHA, which was built by the federal government, but then basically they walked away and said, now it's your job with the rental that you get to keep it up, which was never going to be enough when you're talking about people who are making the least, if an income at all. So we do need the federal government that way. We need the state government to pony up for additional improvements in NYCHA that make it actually livable, because it's not in many cases, and that's incredibly unfair to people. But we need a lot more building. And Zohran has said he's going to focus on 200,000 more units, I think, in the city, which is an important thing to do. Part of that is making it easier to build. And there are, I think, 4 out of the 5 ballot proposals that you'll see when you vote in November, or if you vote early, the end of October, are all related to essentially making it easier to build more in the city. We hear these conversations around YIMBY or NIMBY, and certainly there are some projects that are not good for communities, but the scale at which we need a lot more and more affordable and deeply affordable means that we simply have to build a lot more. And so that's a necessity. So the combination of a lot of programs that will not only at the city and state level help make it affordable to build more affordable housing is one. Streamline some of the things that are holding back actually doing that, which is the ballot proposals, which I do think was a good thing that, if I can say something decent, that Eric Adams' administration did. I think those are good ballot proposals, because it kind of takes out the NIMBY role of individual council members and makes it a much broader process through the land use thing, not to get too wonky. So we need to build a lot more. We need to make it easier to go through the approvals process. We do need to protect current residents of NYCHA. We need to build a new generation of Mitchell-Lama, which is affordable middle-class housing. That's really the only way to stay middle class in the city and grow up middle class is to be in some version of Mitchell-Lama, and they're not nearly enough for the city. And then, we need at the federal government, and maybe there's a role for the state to step in, an increase in vouchers, Section 8 vouchers. I mean, there's years-long wait lists to get those, and that basically makes it possible for people who can't afford to live in the city based on their income to bring that as part of payment. And so all of those things need to work together. This problem didn't come overnight. The assumptions were wrong in terms of who was going to build housing, the assumptions that some small piece of affordable was going to get past the problem. And then the assumptions are also wrong that we can get out of this problem without the federal government. But we have an antagonistic federal government right now. So we're going to have to do a lot at the state and city level to fill in the gap. And none of that has been really, we haven't seen enough of that. I do think the one good thing, not one good thing, but one thing I can say that was good was on the whole, the move by the Adams administration. It was an independent council he put consortium that he put together to make these zoning proposals, and I do think that's important. So all those things are good. They all need to happen. I think this reliance on the quote unquote good nature and business acumen of the relateds of the world is really failed policy. You know, at the their bottom line is their bottom line. So they've, you know, in my neighborhood with Chelsea, Elliott Fulton houses, they, you know, went to this agreement to help basically rehab and update NYCHA in my community. And then they've come back and said basically the mechanics of how we were going to do this and what it was going to involve and what was going to be taken out or not doesn't work. So we have to change it. But that's always what happens. So I think I'm much more in favor writ large of the preservation trust model, where you're actually working hand in hand with the city as opposed to large scale developers who have not been proven to be on this side.
Like you said, it's about their bottom line. It's about their self-interest. I mean, Chuck Schumer the other day, different issue, but it's looking for the good-natured billionaires to come help and say bail out the Democratic Party. You cannot rely on them.
No. And I mean,
you have to force their hand. I
think you know, I have some really choice thoughts about a lot individually, but you don't have to think ill of them to think these are business people. Yeah. They are not in the social enterprise business. They are in the business of business. So the idea that they're going to go above and beyond and benefit, you know, deeply affordable housing is just not there. And I also think part of the problem that people hear about and think about and talk about when they talk about housing is the issue of homelessness. So you're talking about housing, but you're also talking about the quality of life issue on your street. And our shelter system is not safe for most people. It's certainly not safe for families. A lot of the programs that we had put in place to get people into individual apartments have been dissipated, but those started being destroyed even under Cuomo's one of his first acts as governor was to destroy some of those programs that made it possible for families to get out of shelters and into homes. Now it's only gotten worse after COVID because the combination of financial crisis and COVID meant that the people who got bailed out and got helped out were these big corporations and not small contractors, small developers, small businesses, small people. They all folded and went under, and that is compounding the lack of affordability. It's compounding the problem at the marketplace where you would be seeing more affordable and individual ingenuity in housing. So all these things are problems, but I guarantee you, a man from another time, Andrew Cuomo, is not going to be solving any of them. Right. And we really do need someone who is, in my view on this issue, much more leftist. We need someone who's open to social housing. We need someone who's not against public housing, and everything that you hear, you know, being bantered about is as if we're in opposition to the government role, the role that government really can and should play with affordable, deeply affordable, and public housing, in my view. So that's housing, and I think he's on the right track with all those things. I think his closest aide or advisor on the housing issue, Sia Weaver, she's been around the block for quite some time. I have a lot of respect for her and her skill on this issue. I think housing people are some of the smartest people. So.
I mean, those not biased, is it?
and now on the jobs piece, I think the biggest contributor to jobs and the business climate in the city, we still have the best, if I'm going to talk in business terms, because that's what they want to hear, we still have the best product in the country. We have the creativity, we have the talent here, we have the walkable life in the city. We need to keep working on those things to make sure that the creative young minds can come here, not just the playground for the wealthy. And that is what makes it. Mass transit, close access to culture and life and public parks and these things are the biggest asset New York City has.
And this, I agree, but this incentivizes businesses who are maybe already here, but are terrified of, tariffs or whatever Trump's going to do the next day. Maybe putting out there. We've heard a lot about ghost jobs. Well, they'll put out an ad for a job, but they're really just hiring internally, or they don't go back to you. I'm always looking for work. I'm a freelance editor. I'm always looking for for work. But it's noticeably this year, while interviews can happen still, and
Yes.
that's a good sign, the follow through has not been as common as it was in years past.
Well, and I'm
So
hearing a lot about that actually. I think it's my guess, and again, I'm not in your industry, but my guess is it's a combination of things. I think people really are afraid of where the economy is going, and so there's this kind of reluctance on that part. They don't know what this crazy man in DC is going to do next, and tariffs really are impacting a lot of things. And I think it was a completely unforced error. I don't really see how it's helped the U.S. at all, and he's creating these fake outcomes that appear to be helpful and advantageous to the United States, but they're really not, best I've seen. So I do think there's some fear in the economy, but I also think there was something like and it's not the exact same issue, but to talk about the broader issue of work, something like 300,000 Black women exited the workforce, and that wasn't just driven by federal jobs, but my fear about a lot of the dislocation in jobs is that it could be much more long term. Not those numbers, but in the incoming AI, all of these. I thought when you said ghost job, you were talking about AI recruiters with AI resumes, and no one's actually interviewing a person on either side. I think the biggest fight for jobs we have is how are we protecting these jobs? I remember when I was at the state, the thing that we were just starting to talk about was, in a gig economy, so to speak, and that was really before AI had really taken hold. How are we protecting people? At every level in the economy, it's become a gig economy.
Very much so. They love it. They don't have to pay any kind of 401k.
Whether you're a driver, whether you're in fashion, it is happening everywhere. And it means that very few people are having a good quality of life and very few protections in the workforce. So I think it is a complicated issue, but the most important thing right now has to be, how are we protecting people's way of life? I do think in a way that maybe would be counterintuitive for me to say this as like the business person, because I was all about business and job creation. Unions have been some of our best protections there, especially in recent years as things like continue to move away from us. And I think they're a big part of the fight, but I'm most concerned about the gig economy, not just giving you fewer options of job opportunities, but eventually segueing into complete technological takeover. And I think the whole world is facing some of these workforce issues, but if there's any place that's well placed to respond to that, it's the place people want to live. Like we want to live here. I want to be able to go to Central Park. I want to be able to go to the Lower East Side and, well, not now, but when I was in my 20s and 30s, and go party with my friends. I want to be able to, increasing number of people are still working remote, regardless of what companies say. Do you want to do that in New York City, where you can have an amazing life and diversity in every possible facet? Or do you want to do that somewhere else? I mean, and some people choose different things, but this is still offering the best vantage point. I'm most concerned in terms of jobs. It's not a job. It's not a field. It's not a job if you cannot make enough money to live in it.
Right.
And far too many people, not just because the wages are low and arbitrarily low, especially given our, inflation and not increasing over time, but just the fact that if in a freelancer gig economy, you're not able to do enough work to make ends meet. So I think I've changed in terms of what my focus is on, and it's entirely on the workforce issues itself.
Yeah.
I don't want 20,000 jobs that are all jobs that require people to be on public assistance and never knowing. I mean, what is that? That is, that's
Sam Cedar of the Majority Report makes this good analogy of if your basic needs cost $10 and every job is offering you $1, it doesn't matter if you get a job or not, because you still can't afford your basic needs.
No. And now it's not just by virtue that reality is not just by virtue of uh, artificially low wages, but also an economy that has transformed to gig and freelance work where you're not able to do enough, where that ultimately produces the same outcome.
Yeah.
And no protections and no, no guaranteed healthcare, all these things. So I think we are still better placed than anywhere in the country to be the place people want to work and still build their companies because a lot of these big companies still want to be, people say, oh, all these billionaires are going to leave. I agree with Zohran. No, they're not. Maybe some of them will, but they liked Palm Beach more to begin with then.
Yeah.
People still want to be here. I think my most important stance on the economy and that piece right now is my deep concern. Like, you should not be freaked out about freelance work as a really talented person. And you are not in the minority here. That is the majority. Yeah. And that is, I think, the biggest issue we have, if that makes sense.
It definitely does. And I wholeheartedly agree. I just want to flash back here to this was a speech you gave in 2021.
Oh, wow.
We're not going to watch the whole thing here. This was the NBC coverage of it.
Yeah.
But this is where I had heard about you standing up to Cuomo before this, but I was just happened to be walking through the park with my photographer friend, and we saw you live, and I was so inspired, just especially at that time. The pandemic gets memory hold a lot. First of all, it's still happening.
Yes, it is.
Second of all, Trump was coming out bi-weekly, irregularly with updates and telling people to inject bleach. And Andrew Cuomo was out there daily with updates, just repeating what scientists and doctors said. And he was at his national popularity. Yeah. And here you come after he's written a book, ready to go on tour to run for president. And here you come standing up saying he should be impeached. And it worked. It galvanized so many people who were sick and tired of Cuomo. Sick and tired of him and Chris hanging out on CNN like it's their own personal podcast. And I just wanted to ask, what was the last straw that made you stand up against him? And did you have plans to protect yourself from retribution?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I just saw the clips of that and I vaguely remember it. I do remember it was such an odd moment because when you are a senior person working for a politician, you're the person making them look good. You're not usually the person who steps out. I had been lucky enough that I had been running for office. And I had done that once before. So I kind of knew how to be in front of the camera, but it was still a new thing for me, especially on that scale. The last straw was really finding out two things. So I had spoken privately. People say, what is it like to work for Andrew Cuomo, especially when he was this famous? And I would say, it's just like working for Donald Trump. They're the same person. And I would just kind of let that sit. And if people were curious, they would give me a look and I would give them a look back like, yeah. But I didn't say much more. Certainly my family knew, my friends knew privately, other colleagues knew that I was close with, who this man was. And I think a lot of people in state knew who this man was. But I didn't intend to say it the way I did at the time that I did it all. I thought maybe I would be much older, he would be dead by then because he's significantly older than I, not some like death wish. But I was speaking critically on Twitter. I was like, worst job I've ever had was not working at Friendly's and, doing ice cream and waitress saying it was working for Andrew Cuomo. And that was when a young woman reached out to me and said that he had sexually harassed her privately. And I had not said that he sexually harassed me. So this was an admission to me privately that I had not shared publicly. So I knew she was telling the truth. I spoke with her. She's a lot younger than I am. And that made me feel like crap because she came after me. And the fact that I didn't stop it meant that these things happened to her. And I've always been someone who really feels, compelled to look out, particularly for younger women, younger people, more vulnerable people. And that made me feel terrible. I'm mulling over it. And then a few days later, his name is being floated for attorney general in Biden administration. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, this monster is still doing all these things. And now he would be the most senior law enforcement officer in the country having jurisdiction over all women. And it was right after I saw that name floated that I just started tweeting about what he did. And I did not have any protection. The retribution was swift. I had not prepared for it at all. I think most of these things that we reveal, we usually don't do it with the plan that would actually help us. It usually happens unplanned. And so,
What kind of what was it?
What?
What kind of retribution was it?
I mean, he smeared me in all the top newspapers saying I was like difficult, hostile, bad woman. I don't even, I try not to feed into too many
he
of
used
them,
the nasty woman thing.
all of it. Yeah. His emissaries called my campaign staff and, tried to get them to quit, and one did quit.
Okay.
And then the others told me about it, how they were being threatened. And then I had to hire an attorney just because it was like I was, the paparazzi were at my door. They were putting me on the cover of all the newspapers.
Right. Did they dox you? Like, I watch a lot of movies. I'm thinking like that cops knock on the door and they're like, hey.
Yeah, someone did, but we knew enough not to answer. They're like, hello, is Lindsey there? And it was like so creepy. It was definitely like Halloween poltergeist kind of stuff. And it is weird to be on the receiving end of that. And we had to like take all, unfortunately, every single reporter had my cell phone number because I was senior administration. Right. So I'm getting all the calls. Everyone knows where I live because it's public information for campaigns. So they're all there. It was truly a terrible period of my life. And then I had to get an attorney just because, I'm being threatened and all this kind of stuff, smeared. And that is when I decided to put together this more formal piece that I did in a medium form. Right. I originally wanted to put it in a newspaper, but no one would run it because they were afraid to have me be out there by myself. So I really had to I had to put it together. I had to relive this stuff. I had to get an attorney, and then I had to like push the button again and kind of speak out again. And ultimately that was good because a few days later, Charlotte Bennett came forward publicly, and then other women came forward. And then there was the Attorney General's investigation. So that kind of is how things went. But I have, now, unfortunately, I've become somewhat of an expert in this space. And I think it's a rare occasion that people are able to come forward about their own harm in a planned kind of safe way. It doesn't end up typically being safe. Now, a lot of women reach out to me to ask for advice. And so I hope that I can offer them some ideas that make them a little safer, but rarely is it like, how I did the medium piece where I already had an attorney and I had all the information. It ends up coming out like a secret. It's painful and we're taught to not talk about it. So I think even for our own safety, and it wasn't safe. I mean, he basically tried to tarnish my reputation. And he still tries to do it. And yet we prevailed. And so I always think it's important to tell the story because, and again, I have tremendous privilege. So I always like to clarify that so that in the future, it doesn't require that in order to beat a bad guy. But, he didn't win, and he didn't win in the primary, and he's not going to win again. It's so deliciously emasculating and humiliating for him.
It really is.
Especially that he truly doesn't know how to take no for an answer. He's just that kind of a jerk. He can't hear no. And that is so gross. I think, I think women know that kind of guy. And I think that kind of guy. You're like, ooh, that guy, I'm not friends with that kind of guy. He doesn't know how to take no for an answer. I don't want to hang out with him,
Yeah.
Gross.
No. Those kind of guys, you can spot them a mile away and you go, okay, how you, all right.
Gross.
All right. And maybe, tell some of the women around like, hey, don't, it's not going to be, but we unfortunately are going to need that kind of expertise in dealing with retribution because of things like this. You got the photojournalists being attacked in the Federal Plaza for documenting ICE coming in. This is your blue sky about the judge standing up and saying, where was this judge?
In Massachusetts. So it's in Massachusetts. Okay. But of course I'll probably end up going to the Supreme Court is my guess. But we use
you think
the tools
so?
and I wonder. But I think this is a great victory. I mean, it's
Yes.
sad that this is a great victory. Wouldn't it be obvious
Right.
to us that our basic First Amendment rights extending to non-citizens, um, that is what we should value in this country, probably more than
And
anything else, is our
the
First
judge
Amendment
even
rights.
mentioned ISIS masks and said that
Yes.
we associate that with cowardly desperados and the despised Ku Klux Klan.
Yes.
And
I
of
mean, it was
course,
the best ruling that we could have had.
yeah,
It was very, and how sad. I mean, this guy
yeah,
missed in one case, Mahmoud Khalil missed the birth of his child, all
yeah.
for simply protesting a genocide. And he's, of course, as we been smeared like
Mhm.
he was being anti-Semitic. I have not read a single thing anywhere, and that it's been so not easy, but it's been wonderful to kind of like especially focus on this issue and the rising also Islamophobia, because it's, to me, especially against Zohran, the same smear tactics by the same guy and the same bad faith people. And frankly, it's more close to fascism than I think we would want to admit, because it's creating a truth.
I
It's
mean,
bullshit.
it's straight up fascism at this point. I mean,
Yes.
Trump today, Hegseth and Trump were speaking to the entire military brass, which is unheard of, bring them all together, and said the ones run by radical left Democrats were going to San Francisco, Chicago, New York, Los Angeles, threatening to send the army
Yeah.
in to these cities. So what can what can a mayor do against ICE, against the army, against
Yeah.
National Guard?
I think in Chicago, with the governor there and Gavin Newsom in California and some of the bigger cities, there's a lot that can be done. I mean, I think there's no city that is better placed to fight back against ICE
Can
than New York.
they? I mean, I agree, but it
Especially
is
when you're
scary
aligned
to
with the
see them walking
governor.
around.
I think alignment with the governor of New York is key in this
Yeah.
case, and I think there's a lot of tools to fight back. I think in spite of all of the billionaires who love Trump and Cuomo at the same time, there are so many people in civic life in this city that do not understand that Trump coming into with federal officers increasingly and taking away the authority of the city of New York is the heart of fascism. If it comes to New York, if it happens to New York, it can happen anywhere. And I think
Yeah.
Zohran is very aware of that. And I think he is Trump's worst nightmare in the city. I had heard a statistic on the ICE piece of this, because there's federal troops. They're talking about in Maryland or in other places. But I had heard a statistic that something like half of all ICE arrests are in New York. And I was kind of shocked by that, because we see a lot of press. We're seeing a lot of this bad press. That woman who was just trying to, see her husband, and she was aggressively pushed to the ground. And I've heard he's been reinstated, is the latest today. That guy, he should
Yeah,
he was permanently.
2 days ago, he was put on leave and then
And now he's back,
reinstated.
right?
Yeah, right away.
I mean, I think there's not been enough. There has not to say that we've had half maybe of all of the ICE arrests in New York across the country. I don't think there's been enough protests and enough press.
Yeah.
Now we've had some high profile politicians getting arrested, and I think we need more civil disobedience. And the hard part is I've, participated in so many moments of civil disobedience, and never in my career have I heard people say, don't come to this action if you're not a citizen. But I totally agree. And that is the climate that we've created. So it's not safe for everyone to protest. There's a lot of people that can't. And yet it makes it that much more important to protest in the city and in
I've
the state.
seen Kat Abigazela, a friend of mine in Chicago, running for Congress. She's at that Broadview ICE facility every week.
Yes.
And the latest post I saw of hers about it was, if you're not legal, if you're not a citizen, don't come. Or if you're brown, don't come.
Isn't that sad? But it's true.
And she's using, she's Palestinian, but she's white, passing blonde. So she's using her privilege as a public figure, to be on the front of the car pushing back. And, we saw a video of her get thrown to the ground by an ICE agent. Mayors are getting arrested, like you said. And, hopefully Hochul's endorsement of Mamdani is not just surface level, that she does coordinate with him. I think she's, I don't know what you can and can't say about Kathy Hochul, but I can say I think she's kind of a weather vane and will go where the popularity is lying. And I hope
think she
that
is.
that
I think
lasts
she is.
through policy as well.
I worked with her at State. I think she's a smart woman. I
Yeah.
don't think she's going to be the first to stand courageously against anyone, but we don't need that. We have
she'll be
Zohran
the
who's
second.
doing that. We have Zohran who's doing that, and
Yeah.
we have a city that has courageously thus far chosen to stand behind him. She's not going to go against that moving tide once he becomes mayor. And as much as, I think Cuomo, when he was governor, was a really bad model of the relationship with mayor, because he lived to make de Blasio, he lived to make the mayor look bad. And really, there's a place in which if you make the city look, if you help the city's mayor do well, you end up doing better too. I mean, if New York City is perceived as a problem, how does that help the governor long term, really? Aside from, pretending like you're saving it when you're not, which is what Cuomo did during COVID. But I think she will, she supported him because she knew that that's where things were going. And I don't think it will be fake. I think she did a good job. A good model of what she can do and is capable of was her fight back against congestion pricing when that went into place. I think she was pretty strong on that. She knew that it was a make or break moment. And I do think she will be forced into several make or break moments vis-a-vis Trump with Zohran Mamdani as mayor. And there's no model in which she doesn't support him. So I think her fate is tied to supporting him once he becomes
well, that's
mayor.
good to know.
Yeah. So do I think she's some great, I haven't spoken to her in person in a few years, but we did work together. Do I think she's some serious Mamdani fan? No. But I think she's smart enough and her people are smart enough to know that her fate is tied to his success at this point, particularly vis-a-vis Trump.
Yeah. Speaking of the Zohran race, Eric Adams, big news over the weekend, dropped out. First of all, how much do you think he got paid and by who?
Oh my God.
But
it's so
really,
sick.
Do you
it's
think
like these
that
people
this
are like
actually,
villains? They're
do
movie
you think
villains.
this actually helps Cuomo or Curtis?
No,
I don't. At least, the vote would have been split 3 ways between Adams, Cuomo, and Curtis. But now it'll be only 2 ways. So
I don't think so. I mean,
help.
he was polling last I saw him. First, I actually don't put a lot of credence in most polling. There's a few pollsters and numbers people that I follow, but the vast majority I don't. I think it's mostly BS. But he was polling at I think 8 or 9%, and he was the sitting mayor of New York. I don't think it really helps Cuomo at all. I actually think some of his votes will go to Zohran. I am hearing that maybe he will endorse Cuomo, which doesn't surprise me. When Cuomo was trying to find his way back to power before he decided to challenge for mayor, his one community, his one kind of group that was really in regular communication with him were Adams people, so a lot of those folks, Frank Carone, I think, he's Cuomo now. Ingrid Lewis-Martin was friendly with the Cuomo people. So they were already kind of enmeshed in terms of their support base. So he probably will endorse him. I don't think it will help that much. I think there's just too much ground movement and people power. Literally, I think the term is overused, but truly people power for Zohran. I've never seen this much canvassing, this much excitement.
Me neither. I saw someone walking down the street with a Jews for Zohran shirt. I've seen posters of him before the primary was coming. I've never seen anything like that living here my entire life.
I have never either. And I've been in this field and I've been canvassing when only dorks like me do it. I do the things and it's never been like this. So that's going to win the day. Now, I don't think it should make people sit pretty or feel comfortable. I'm going to go out and do the work. I'm going to go out on every show and remind people what a POS Cuomo is, how his abuse of women is his abuse of power. But I don't think it really helps him that much. He's also still going to be on the ballot. And you wouldn't believe how many people are confused by these things. You and I are aware, but a lot of people, do not want to live in politics and do not want to engage,
Yeah.
and may, if we're lucky, show up on election day and be like, wait, oh, there's Eric Adams here, there's Curtis Sliwa, there's Jim All, there, whatever his name is. I've like blocked it out now, but there are going to be all these people, and there's going to be a lot of confusion. And I don't think Cuomo will be the unique beneficiary of that alone.
Good. I think a big moment for me in just watching your career and being aware of your existence was during that initial, impeach Cuomo thing. A lot of that was fueled by the nursing home crisis.
Yes.
And you did at least one interview with Janice Dean from Fox News about that, because I believe she had a relative who died in the nursing home. And that's a reached across the aisle moment. And we've heard a lot recently, especially from people like Ezra Klein, about how to reach across the aisle and how to win. And I'm, I think we can more agree with the way Zohran reached Trump voters by just asking, hey, what was the reason that you voted for Trump? And here's how I can produce policies that will actually achieve those goals that you were looking for.
Yes. Well, so, I will tell you, Janice Dean is a dear, dear friend. And I have worked with people of a variety of political, backgrounds in the fight against Cuomo. And she's a very special person because she's like a sister to me. And I don't think it's that hard to talk to people when you understand where their trauma and where their grief is coming from. Like, I actually think one gift of having gone through this terrible experience is, even if I don't agree with someone, I will never again discount the role of their personal experiences, like, at least in trying to understand them. Their fear of the history of the fear of anti-Semitism and around the Holocaust. I think I don't have to agree with a prescribed set of policy stances on what is happening in the Middle East to absolutely take a moment to at least understand someone's trauma and their grief and multi-generational trauma, just as an example. I think Zohran is doing it really well in that way, because he's talking about people's biggest fears. And I think that one of the biggest fears associated with city politics right now is that you literally can't afford to keep yourself housed, or you can't afford to stay here. And so that is the right way to do it. When I saw Ezra Klein, just to touch an example that's close to home for me, basically saying we need to reach around or across the aisle and support pro-life candidates, that was the biggest FU to women that I can imagine. I am a single issue voter on women's right to reproductive choice, whatever that looks like for them. And I don't need to hear another middle-aged man tell me that I need to trade my human rights, or those of my daughter, or those of my sister, or those of my mother, in order to become more palatable for the other side. And I just think it's total BS. I think, what does he know about Arkansas or wherever he was saying?
What does he know about winning anything?
No, I think it's this. Do I think there are really good aspects to some of the takeaways from abundance in terms of building more housing and getting past red tape? Yes. But this abundance philosophy that we need to give up what he views and others view as the culture war. It's not culture war. It's my basic fucking human rights.
It's human rights.
No, we're not having a debate about that. I'm not going to debate about that. I'm not going to ask a Black person in this country to debate the history of the civil rights movement or some other aspect of their basic humanity. That is just not up for sale. And I did really like, and I haven't watched all of it, and I haven't read all of the commentary about it, but Ta-Nehisi Coates does a really good job at kind of slowing him down and saying, why is it the most vulnerable people that you are trading everything? Why are you telling them they have to give up?
Right.
And I thought that was a powerful moment. And he said, "You got me there." I mean, it was just such BS. I do think that we can have conversations with people about their pain points, and that sometimes ends up in areas that we're not going to agree on, but there's an opportunity that it doesn't, like on basically making ends meet for your family. That doesn't mean that I'm going to sit at a table with someone who thinks that my human rights are less than a man's. And that is what, as I'm that is essentially what we're being asked to do here.
Yeah.
And that's a no. It's a no.
Yeah, that's a no from me, dog.
Yeah.
I am half white, half black, half Christian, half Jewish.
Mhm.
So so many issues about
you got a lot of contend with these days.
You know, with what Ezra's prescribing, and even people like Neera Tanden or Gavin Newsom to an extent.
Jumped in there. I'm like, ugh.
You know,
I'm like, of course.
Yes, of course. People whose only interest is very much like Veep.
Yes.
Just how do I get my bag? How do I get a higher profile? How do I get more power? And how do I hold on to it? And if I have to kowtow to fascists, if I have to, because there's very similar to CEOs and mega corporations where it's about the bottom line for them. At least they're amoral. Immoral is like, it's about the bottom line for me specifically and screw everybody else. At least a business will slap rainbow stickers on something if they think people want that.
Well, they're also not pretending to be holier than thou in some cases. Like, at least here, I mean, Ezra seems to be saying that he's making the moral argument. Yeah. And that I find so disingenuous. I mean, if we throw them
under the bus now, then we can win, and then we'll eventually get around to it. Just like when Obama signed in Roe v. Wade into Congress, right? That happened.
It's literally just, it's so, and this isn't happening in a vacuum. He's saying to throw women and Black people and immigrants under the bus in this country at the same time. That is exactly who the Trump administration is focused on.
Yeah.
So he's asking all of us to stab ourselves. And I no, I'm not voting for you. I'm not voting for whoever is behind you or whoever you're essentially teeing up to promote. That's a no, Neera.
Yeah.
You should be done.
Yeah.
That's your time.
You should have been done several years ago.
We did this, and look where it's led us. Look where appeasement of our basic humanity has led us.
And I think interviews like that one with Ta-Nehisi Coates, or when Richie Torres was on with Adam Friedland.
Oh, that was
and they're just kind of like, what about like humanity? What's right or wrong? Don't you feel anything? And they come off, Ezra and Richie, so cold and calculated and
I mean, Adam Friedland, that was how he just kind of gives him a moment to be like, well, don't you look what's happening, and it's so powerful. And you can see they both kind of shut down, because if they didn't, they might be forced to really look at themselves. It's almost robotic.
Yeah.
It's sad.
Yeah. And they don't want to. And it's
of course
kind of terrifying. It's kind of terrifying. I do want to ask, and I'm sure you've been asked many times before, but would you ever consider running for any kind of office again?
I think I will. Yeah, I will someday. I think right now my one office that I'm focused on is making sure Zohran gets elected.
Yeah.
I will again because, one, I don't want to let these experiences, alter my dreams, which a lot of people think politics is shit, but I actually believe in it. And I think that there's a lane for people who really care, and it's deeply meaningful. So I will someday, probably sooner rather than later. But right now, it's, I especially want to be able to be as genuinely, singularly focused on something that I think is helping everyone. So if I were I'm going to be doing this right now, I think it's really hard for me to come across as someone who says, we got to elect Zohran. This is the best thing for our city.
Yeah.
So I will do that, but I don't want it to get
strategically.
I don't want to do that because not like I had anything in mind, but I will. But right now, I need people to know that the thing that is best for everyone is making sure that Andrew Cuomo is not elected from there.
It's Zohran's wedding, and you don't want to show up wearing white. I understand.
Yeah. Yeah.
And speaking of him, let us get a reaction to. He just skeeted this out on Blue Sky. His campaign.
Oh, I saw a piece of it. I could barely watch it. Let's see it.
It's 30 seconds, so let's check this out, folks.
I used to love New York, but now it's just where I live.
New York votes for change.
A stunning upset.
Queens Assemblyman Mamdani struck a chord with a campaign centered on the high cost of living.
New Yorkers have stood up for a city they can afford.
We'll freeze the rent, make buses fast and free, and deliver universal childcare.
We're going to make this city one working people can love.
Paid for by Zohran for NYC.
I love it.
He's so good at this.
He's so good at
He
it.
really is. Every question he's asked in any interview, he brings it back to how to help people of New York.
And
Regardless.
that's leading with empathy, but it's not weakness. I mean, he just ran circles around the entire Democratic establishment. So just because he's not doing it while being a jerk doesn't mean he's not strong.
Yeah.
You know, it was wonderful, and it was exactly what people need to hear. It was showing people that he is about their concerns. And every kind of New Yorker can get behind someone who's talking about how hard it is to live in this city. And it's exciting. There was a few clips from the night that he won the primary, and I had not planned to go. I find election night to be like very stressful in general,
I can
just in my
imagine.
career. And I was at home. I was with my daughter, and then I really started to see the numbers, and I knew he was going to win. And so I got out of my pajamas. And I went there, and it was exciting to be in that room. And I think that it comes across in that video. And then what is Andrew Cuomo going to do? I'm going to save this city from utter darkness.
I'll show you what
that
Andrew
going to
Cuomo's gonna
inspire?
do.
What are you going to do with that, Grim Reaper? You know, Halloween man who comes up every few years and like a horror thriller to come try to kill me again. You know.
You are the Laurie Strode to his Michael Myers. Absolutely.
God, it just never ends. I literally sometimes on Instagram I put that Halloween song, you know, like Michael.
Yeah,
It just like really never ends.
That's the only thing I can play on the piano. Fun fact.
Oh, really? That's pretty talented.
This is what Andrew Cuomo was doing. Now I can't play the sound from this because it's copyrighted music. But I will
She
play.
would not endorse Andrew Cuomo in any way.
Right. So this is my tweet over it.
I'm so pissed.
One, these people look like they were handed a sign and told what to say because they are not enthusiastic at all. Two, Cardi B, they use a Cardi B song, and she would absolutely not endorse Cuomo if she even knows like what's going on in this race. She would absolutely be behind Zohran. She's endorsed
she's a
Bernie before.
burner. She's a burner. Come on.
And three, the music, again, I encourage everyone watching to watch this campaign ad that Cuomo put out. The music is so loud, you can't even hear what the people are saying.
Man, there's that butthole logo. Look at
He
his
does not
logo.
have a good editor like me there.
He doesn't, like, I know these people. I know who's working for him. Some of them I worked with at State. They are not particularly talented people. And they're certainly not inspired. I mean, they're operating off of fear and retribution. So I think that's a great example of how these things have never produced good long-term outcomes or creativity.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I co-host the show tomorrow with Dieter McBusiness of American Wasp. He is someone who grew up in Massachusetts, rich, and you know, his family knew a lot of high-profile Republicans and whatnot. Went to Vanderbilt and everything, and he talks about how the right has a lack of creativity, and it's because they don't question things. They don't.
Yes.
They're not curious about the world and learning, and they don't want to be perpetual learners like a lot of lefties do. It's just it's just a kind of a weird dichotomy that I never was able to really nail down. Despite seeing the Daily Wire's efforts in making movies and TV
I know.
shows.
It's so like what is it? I guess the closest thing I've seen to something like that is, what is it, the Sacramento Bee or whatever they call it? That
Oh yeah, the Babylon Bee.
Sorry, Babylon Bee. I'm like,
Where
the
they tried to
Sacramento
do
Bee's gonna
the
come
Onion.
sue me for Babylon Bee. They're just like, you look at, you're like, that's not even funny. That's not even a funny thing. That wasn't funny.
But speaking of Cardi B, have you heard the new album?
I love it. I actually bought tickets to the show. I am a super fan. I love, and actually I feel like, given this work I've been engaged in over the last primary and now, it's like Dead is for me, Petty and Pretty, Take It Outside or Outside. Like these are anthems of mine right now.
I mean, Bodega Batty really speaks to the culture of New York.
Yes,
it's like
it does.
1 minute, but it's really it gets you hyped.
every song on there, like Outside was not one of my first favorites. And then she talked about it in an interview, and I'm like, wait a second, I need to go back and it is so good. It just goes to show you, like, there's some incredible creativity that can come from really difficult periods in your life. Like, she's talked about it, right? And this certainly came from a place of incredible hardship. And it's so badass. I love it. I don't always do this. I usually only buy tickets to concerts that I'm taking my daughter to. I'm going with a girlfriend. I was like, are you coming with me? And like, how much are you willing to spend? And I was literally on the pre-sale line when the tickets opened.
Where is she? Like, Madison Square Garden?
Actually, so I'm originally from California. The ones at Madison Square were really expensive, and they're on my daughter's spring break. So I'm going to visit my nieces in California. There's one in Palm Springs. So
nice.
But I immediately did it. And I was so excited. You know, that's another thing. I love that he's talking about the ticketing stuff. That is such BS. It is.
Oh my God. The head of Ticketmaster the other day saying, oh, there's room to increase prices.
Oh my gosh. Well, that's the thing we didn't get into. And I should have talked about it in the business piece, because the other aspect, kind of like housing, has all these drivers that relate to private sector interests. Well, where we are in this country with jobs and with everything has to do with monopoly power. And I went to the anti-monopoly conference this fall. I'm a big fan of Lena Khan and everything that folks are doing to really hold like, I read somewhere on Twitter, someone made a joke, but it's kind of true. Our country's basically like 5 companies in a trench coat. And I mean, we can be glib and joke about Ticketmaster, Live Nation, all that, but at the end of the day, having a few companies run everything, like a company like Amazon, what even is it anymore? It's like the green blob that is in everything. There are a lot of problems that are being created by having a very small number of people run everything and own everything. Oh, look at that! What's that?
Mr. Poon wanted his name is Rune, R-U-N-E. He wanted a little camera spot.
I love it. My dog is hiding over there. You can see her. Oh, she's right.
Oh, he just ran off.
Oh, there's mine. She's my little Boston Terrier.
Oh, there
I
she
got
is.
her right when a few months after I came forward, I got it for my daughter, which I did. I was door knocking for my campaign, and I wanted something that would make her happy and kind of lift her spirits with all the craziness going on for our family. And of course, the dog is right next to me, like all the time. You know, she's like my emotional support dog. So I'm a big fan whenever I see a small furry person out there.
Yeah, he'll be on the couch, and sometimes he'll get the zoomies and he'll run back and forth.
I love it.
Quick plug. My reaction to the Cardi B album is on my channel, folks. You can find it down below on YouTube. Which is your favorite song? I like Hello because it's my wife's favorite song. When she started moving to it, I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna definitely hit that one to the playlist. But I really like, I mean, I of course I love where she's dead. Magnet, where she's coming out hard against, you know, all these people who've been talking stuff about her. But I do really like the middle section. There's at least 3 songs that are all about Offset. She gets really vulnerable in what happened in the relationship, what she thinks she did wrong, how she really feels about, like, I'll always love you, I wish you luck, it has to be the end, you know. And that was a side of her I've never seen before. And
what's going on too? Like I thought.
Oh my God, Lizzo came with the 4 non-blondes cover. Loved it.
I loved it too. It was there was that part. There was so much of her in it, and I just loved it. But I will look at your full reaction. Your plug.
I have many reviews and reactions on my channel. That is mostly what I talk about is like video games, movies, TV, music. But through a lens of someone who's a leftist, because if you get me started on it, we'll go for another hour, and we have just over 7 minutes to talk.
I know. I was not a leftist. I didn't like come out being one, and it just everything in my life. We all kept being like, what the hell is this?
Me neither.
How is this? What is going on?
Yeah. I came to it late, and it just, you know, I wear this Green Lantern hat, one, because I'm a big Green Lantern fan, but because I also heard about the Green Lantern theory of politics, where they say you can't wave a magic ring and have everything work. So as a comic book fan, I have to clarify, Green Lantern does not use magic. It is willpower. Willpower is the thing that gives him his powers.
I love
And
it.
that you can do anything with willpower. So that is why I reframe the Green Lantern theory of politics and take
I
it back
actually
for us
like
comic
that.
book
You're
fans.
taking it back.
Yes. And reframing it as it's willpower. With will, there's a way.
Yes.
And that is Green Lantern. As we end here, I want to thank you for coming on. I also want to invite you to come on anytime you feel like
I would
it.
love that. This has
We
been very
will-
fun, and it's nice to meet a friend in person. Well, not in person, but you know.
Yeah. I mean, we can. I'm here too.
Yeah.
I'm local. But last question, because I do talk about movies, TV.
Yes.
Is there any TV or movies that you've watched recently that you think are really, really good?
Andor. I mean,
Yes.
Andor. It's like honestly, it's everything to me. I know that sounds so dorky, but I love Andor, and I'll listen to
Full-part
it.
review
I'll
on my
watch,
channel.
Marva's like her stone like speech. I think about that a lot and what it means in my political life. I think about the great, speech that what is her name gives at like the Senate.
Mon Mothma.
Yes, Mon Mothma. It's like these moments, and then of course Andor himself. Like I literally bawled when it was over, and it was just like the best. And for me, I'm a huge Star Wars fan, and I grew up watching it. And then when I saw Rogue One, it just took it to another level for me because it didn't require someone to be like a king or a lost prince or something in order to be hugely important in shaping the world. And so that became my favorite Star Wars. And then so Andor became my favorite of all time. So there's other things I've liked, but Andor is just like, there's nothing like it, right?
I can't stop talking about
I
Andor.
can't either. I'm like, you don't understand.
Yeah. I mean, again, 4-part series on my channel about, because the drops were coming out with 3 episodes each. The one, I mean, first of all, the arc where she said, the Imperial officer comes to sexually assault her. She names it.
Yes.
She names it on Disney.
Yes.
And they named the genocide on Disney.
I felt that. I felt that. All of those things. They didn't lighten it in any way. It was very, in some ways, gruesome, but it didn't make it any less hopeful as a result. And so I really appreciated that because we're in those kinds of times, unfortunately.
Yeah, it was, I mean, it was a blueprint for how to fight against what we're living through right now.
I feel it a lot. I mean, in my like super dweeb phase, I like put on the music sometimes when I'm going to deal with something with all this Cuomo bullshit, and it feels good. It feels helpful.
Yeah,
that's what art is, right?
We have friends everywhere. We have friends everywhere.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's what I mean. Like, in going to the coalition building.
Yes.
We have friends everywhere. You just have to talk to them. Find out what their needs are, find out how we can address those, and you can build that bigger tent that Ezra Klein keeps talking about just without throwing anybody out of it.
No one wants to be in.
Right.
Like a cool
I think
tent.
the people saying that, I don't remember which New York politician said it. Tom Suozzi said, like, we need to get people like Zohran out of the Democratic Party.
Oh,
like,
yeah,
no. You go start your own party.
No. Why don't you
go start your party with
Tom?
Nicole Wallace and Crystal? Yeah. I mean, with Bill Kristol, and I mean, you don't get me started on the former
Jacobs,
Republicans.
Our party chair. He can't support our party nominee in the city of New York. Fine, go out to stay in Long Island, do your own thing, and give up the New York
start
Democratic
the
Party.
third way party.
This is where it's going. Yes.
Yeah. We're gonna we're gonna Andor the Democratic Party and take it over and have Mon Mothma lead the rebellion.
I am on board.
Thank you so much, Lindsay, for joining us here.
And thank you all for listening. I appreciate it. It was very fun.
Please follow Lindsay on all social medias. She is a great resource, especially if you live in New York, but you should anyways, because you are really a great voting guide. Like when I was going to vote for the primary, I was like, well, who else? I know I'm voting for Zohran, but who else? And that dream thing that you guys came up with, so perfect. So perfect. So again,
I'm so glad you invited me. Thank you. And you're a great guy. And I appreciate knowing you, being a friend. And when we'll meet in person sometime soon, now that we've done the video.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you feel so inclined to hop on, we're getting a private message from producer Nick. Carlos is on the way, so we got a little extra time.
Okay.
But with that extra time, I think
Yeah.
we should talk a little bit more about not to bring it down again, but like that generals meeting was pretty spooky.
Oh
and
my
the
God.
way that, Pete Hegseth was talking about, we got to be aggressive, essentially be aggressive. And
well, my dad's
get
a
rid of-
Marine. I grew up in a Marines family, so like my dad has actually served, and I remember when he was appointed, like no one that my dad knows in his generation respects Pete Hegseth, like, and his path to that job, no one respects it.
Well-
And I'm not suggesting that like I'm some huge military buff and like expert, but respect is an incredibly important aspect to getting people to do things they don't want to do, which is what exactly happens in defense of this country in the military. And so he's like that letter his mom wrote him, like talking about his women, all of the things they're going back on, all the advances they've made. He's a sycophant, and he's a stupid one. Yeah. It's so dangerous.
I think that's the most frustrating part for me is like, I still can't get over as a lifelong New Yorker, as someone who grew up watching Little Rascals and Home Alone, and asked my dad, who's that guy? And he's like, oh, it's funny because he's like a rich dick. And it would make sense for him to be, in the Plaza Hotel in Home Alone, or the rich villain's father in Little Rascals. And so that's how I knew him. And from The Apprentice to Comedy Central roast, he's just been a guy who floats around and does radio shows, shows up on The View, whatever. The fact that he's the president blew my mind in 2016 and still has not ceased to. And then with everybody else, Pete Hegseth was on air once on Fox talking about how he doesn't wash his hands coming out of the bathroom, and now he's in charge of the army.
He's just ew, that is so gross. And also, guys, like, you see them, you're like, that's probably another kind of guy. You're like, he doesn't wash his hands.
Yeah,
it's like such a sign.
Judge Jeanine Pirro being a U.S. attorney, he's just literally picking people from Fox. It's the laziest fascist takeover.
They're liars. I mean, even like, okay, I don't agree with any of them. But the big thing Pam Bondi was going to do was release the Epstein files. And lo and behold, look at how she's bungled that intentionally for probably obvious reasons.
Mm-hmm.
These people are like, I don't even want to denigrate used car salesmen, because there's probably really good ones. Like, I'm trying to give them a better term, like
snake oil.
Complete liars,
Snake oil
and bads. Yes, snakes. As the almost former mayor said, they're snakes and liars.
I gotta ask this to you because you were in government. If this is what a lot of people suspect is like a loyalty test, do you think they will, like, rank and file, even these generals would disobey orders if
I
they
think
are
at some point
asked to invade New York?
I think at some point, I don't know that it'll look like that. I think at some point, if Trump continues on what he's doing, which is to just challenge every norm, there will be moments where some will stand up. Not all, but I doubt it will come from our politicians on the Republican side.
No.
I think it will probably come from, I don't know if it's, bureaucrats, military members. Like, I don't know what it's going to look like, but I think our elected Republicans, for the most part, have shown themselves to be completely cowardly. I think many privately, I've heard, think he's, unhinged and an autocrat and wrong and evil and a liar, but they won't say it publicly. And so I have lost all faith in their basic American integrity. But I haven't in, like, the bureaucracy, as many people as they've fired, there's still so many people whose job it is to make the escalators work. And I don't think it's going to be an escalator, that stops that, but there will be things like that. If he continues to go, I do have faith that people will stand up.
I think
probably
right.
not who you expect, though. It's never who you expect who rises to the occasion.
I mean, going back to Andor, there was that whole scene of trying to get Mon Mothma out of the Capitol.
Yes.
And there was the two two like hallway monitors basically who the Imperial was trying to like stop the speech, and they were like, oh, you have to go up to the third floor to
Yes.
do that, and that was just a small act. There's the bellhop in
Yes.
on the
Who said
what
you
was
have
that plant
friends
called?
everywhere. I mean,
Yeah.
that was that moment on that.
When he said
that-
no, he said
What did he say? good luck or have
it's
faith.
a hope no, it was the thing that Jyn Erso said in Rogue One.
Yes, you're right. You're right.
Because Cassian
Rebellions are
tells
built
us
on hope. Rebellions are
yes,
built on hope.
thank you. You beat me to it. You beat me as a Star Wars fan.
Yes.
True Star Wars
I told
fan.
you Rogue One was my favorite, and then
Yes.
Andor was even more my favorite. But it's not going to be who you expect. And even in my experience, like if someone had told me, like, you know, I remember when Cuomo was going to run for mayor, and I was like, oh my God, I'm alone again. I'm alone out here, and I have to do this, and I have to defend my family, and I have to defend myself, and I have to fight back for who I perceive as monstrous leading my city with, especially for women. I have to do it. And I felt like no one that I expected, my governor, my senator, no one was saying or doing anything. All these civic leaders who told him to resign, no one did anything. And then this guy Zohran comes out of nowhere. Yeah. And then all these people that I didn't know from DSA come out of nowhere and help me, and then Dream, the people behind like the slogan and everything. All these different people came from the places I least expected it. And it was just kind of like that. And I think we have to let go of the grief that comes when the people we expect. Like, I thought Kirsten Gillibrand, big defender of women and survivors, wouldn't it just be kind of common sense for her to say, no, he shouldn't be mayor? No, Chuck Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries, all these
cares
people.
more about that APAC money than
yeah, and it's never who you expect. And I think a lot of our life experiences, the longer we go, it's never who you expect who stands up alongside you, but it's actually usually exactly who you need. And so I find that very hopeful. And I think kind of a fight back against fascism, it's going to be the same way.
I think you're right. I think a lot of people are, like you said, you felt alone.
Yeah.
But what am I going to do? I have to protect my family. I have to protect my community.
To do it.
And people are watching, you know, the National Guard march through Washington, D.C., ICE walk through neighborhoods, and they're looking to their neighbors like, what are we going to do when ICE shows up on our cul-de-sac? We have to contact each other. We have to exchange information. Yes. We have to build community. And I mean, Princess Leia said it best. The tighter you squeeze, the more star systems will slip through your fingers.
Yes.
The iron grip of fascism really tries hard to crush, and it's not even the first year is done yet, and they're already talking about invading cities with the fucking army.
Well, even that, you know, I think from Andor again, one of the stars is, what is it? Not Merrick. The guy
Nemec.
who died. Yes.
Nemec. Yes. His manifesto
voice is the star of the film or the series, because it's talking about exactly what you're saying. Like, and you know,
it's unnatural.
Cannot hold.
He says it's unnatural. Fascism is unnatural.
Yes.
And we have it. That's why it takes so much effort for them to change minds and be like, no, culture should be this. You should think gay people are weird and black people should go away. You should. And it takes effort, so much effort, because it goes against our natural instincts. Just be like, I'm in a room with gay people and black people. We all seem cool. What are you talking about?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's just.
Thank you so much again.
Thank you. I had a wonderful time. We'll do this again. And I'm actually glad we got back to Andor again, because I feel like we needed to end there.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you so much.
For everyone watching, A Difficult Truth is up next. Carlos, take it away with some current events, please.
Thank you, guys.
Bye, folks.